Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report. We're back again for another game day edition. We will promise to try and get back to Thursdays and obviously have the co-host himself on. But just be happy you're getting a podcast, I suppose, in the meantime. So I'm just going to check we're going and we're all okay real quick. Yeah, we're looking good. Let's just twist that way a bit so we see a bit more of the screen. Go. Perfecto. So, I'll just send the link into the chat for all of you lovely peoples, and then we'll get the podcast underway. Okay, there we go. Alright, so on with the podcast. So, as you've noticed by the title of the show, it is Crunch Time Protocol has begun. Because we are very nearing the end of the regular season, and there is still a lot to play for in terms of playoff positions and everything, as we'll get to in a second. Yeah, so we'll start off with the industry news as normal, look back at last week, and then we'll move on to next week. So, starting off with the injury news, and of course I completely forgot to download all of these before I started the podcast, so that's really ideal, makes for really good viewing. Hopefully they'll download quickly so I don't have to do any fill-off or two. Yeah, there we go, perfecto. Right, so for Gridiron Gang, Des Bryant, he obviously had some knee and ankle injuries last week, but he has been taken off the injury report this week. Danny Woodhead has been activated from IR, so he will make his return this week. Damaris Thomas had a hamstring flare-up in the week, but he'll be okay for today's game. Charles Clare is questionable with his return from his knee injury. His status is very much in the air. I literally got simultaneous reports on my phone saying there's optimism he'll suit up, and then there's uncertainty he'll play. So, who really knows whether he'll play or not? That's it for Gridiron Gang. Cash for gold. To Doug Baldwin, full participant. He's been a bit nicked up here and there, but he'll be fine for this weekend's game. And I think that's everything for them, so they're looking pretty healthy. The Dream Team, Sterling Shepard will not play today due to an illness, so he will need to be removed from the lineup. He will not play. Sterling Shepard will not play. Jordan Reed continues to be out with the hamstring injury he suffered a few weeks ago. Other than that, I think we're all okay there. Southampton Normals, Jeremy Graham, full participant. Again, a guy that just gets nicked up a bit here and there. He'll be fine. Other than that, I think everyone else is okay too. Zay Jones should return this week, as should Matt Forte. Forge Flyers, let's take a look down. Starting lineup's looking okay. Will Fuller is out this weekend's game with an injury, not sure what that is. Fournette is questionable with an injury he picked up late in the week, I believe. Unsure if he'll play today. The Detonators, starting lineup's looking okay. Philip Rivers is questionable, but from what I'm hearing, he will play. He suffered a concussion in last week's game, but he should be good to go. Jameis Winston continues to be out with his shoulder. There was some thought that they might shut him down for the season, but it's looking like he'll come back at some point. To be determined at the moment, however. Pakistan, Julio Jones, limited participant again, one of these perennially injured guys. He'll be fine for the weekend's game. Chris Hogan, he continues to be out with an arm injury he suffered. He will not play today. Other than that, nothing else there. Bare Necessities, they're looking pretty good in the starting lineup. Devontae Freeman will be out, however, after he suffered a concussion in last week's game. John Brown, again, another perennially injured guy, questionable. I'd imagine he'd play. Alan Hines has already been ruled out, as has Ty Montgomery, who had a re-aggravation of that rib injury last week. Thomas Tyrants now then. Actually looking pretty healthy. Can't see a single injury there. Ended up in red zone. Russell Wilson, full participant. He'll be good to go. Anyone else on ADLC? Mike Ellerslie, one to watch out for. He was a healthy scratch last week, so it'll be interesting to see if he's active or inactive again. Tanky McTank face now. Ocean Jeffrey, he's questionable. Again, a guy that's used to getting nicked up. He'll probably play. Dede Westbrook has been activated from IR. I believe he will play today. So better get them in the lineup, Phil. Ixan now, they're looking pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, can't see anything out. And obviously the Elliott suspension is currently sitting on that IR spot now. That is all of your injury news. And just to subdue my paranoia, I'm going to check that we're still going. It looks like we are. Fan-Debbie-Dozy. So let's go straight into the waiver moves. So another kind of spendy week in some respects, so let's take a look. Ben Assist, he spent $24 on Jamal Williams and dropped Hunter Henry in the wake of Ty Montgomery getting injured and obviously losing Aaron Jones for foreseeably the rest of the season. They need another running back, so they turn to another Green Bay running back, but it's looking to be a good ad right now as Ty Montgomery will not play. And they jumped Hunter Henry for that. They also added Dion Lewis for $21 and dropped Aaron Jones, as I just said. Dion Lewis has been the lead back for the Patriots, or the pound the rock back, running out the middle and everything like that for the Patriots. So it's a pretty good ad. He's had some decent games. Gridiron Gang, they dropped Stephen Hausker and added Tyler Croft for $7. But then they just added Jameson Crowder for $6 and dropped Mohamed Sanu. Tankface added the Saints defense for $5 and dropped the Bills defense. But then they just also added Samaje Perine for $4 and dropped CJ Fedorowicz. It's a pretty good ad considering Rob Kelly will now miss the rest of the year, so he figures to be the main back there, obviously with Chris Thompson. Then they just also added Austin Eckler for $3 and dropped the Panthers defense. That's obviously a handcuff, makes sense for them, but that made it because he is the Melvin Gordon owner, so it makes sense. Cash for Gold added Josh Lambo for $2 and dropped the Chicago Bears defense. They also added John Terrell Inman for $2 and dropped Kenny Stills. Tank has re-added D.D. Westbrook for $1 and dropped Rob Kelly in the week of his injury. ADLZ added Andre Ellington and dropped the Vikings defense. And finally, Gridiron Gang added Aaron Rodgers and dropped Tyrod Taylor. There's two interesting things here. So Tyrod Taylor, we'll start with him. Obviously, Gridiron Gang traded for him a few weeks ago. He's been playing pretty well. Looked like he had a really good schedule down the stretch. And then the Bills perplexibly decided to bench him. So fire up the Nathan Peterman hype train. That's such a thing. Anyway, and they also added Aaron Rodgers again. He's on IR with that broken collarbone, but he started taking simulated snaps on the center in practice this week. So he's eligible to return week 15 in the playoffs. Obviously sitting on the reserve spot right now with Woodhead coming off, so could be a nice little stash there. And that is all of your waiver moves. So we will just jump straight into last week's games, and I believe the marquee matchup was this one that I chose last week, Tanky McTanface and the Dream Team, and the reasons being because entering this game, both of these teams were 3-5. Both of these teams needed a win. At this point of the season, it's really win or go home for these two teams. They foreseeably have to win every game to make the playoffs. So the playoffs have essentially begun now for them. Only one could win. The other season would likely be over, and as we can see here, Tanky McTankface had a great day with 126 points to Dream Team's 83. And let's start off with Tanky McTankface, a game that's been really inconsistent this season. They've been really up and down, but they've certainly had their ups. They have been a bit unfortunate with some results not going their way, but this week was not one of them. They had a great week. A spot start of Eli Manning got them 21 points. You can't complain. Mark Ingram got 3 touchdowns, 31 points. Excellent day for him. Tevin Coleman 15. Marquise Lee 14. Devontae Adams 15. And then some other guys chipping some stuff in here. Patriots got 14 points for them in the defensive spot. And what makes this even more impressive is they had DeMarco Murray on the bench who also got 3 touchdowns, 25 points. So it could have been a much, much better day than it was. Alas, still a very, very good day. Good win. It keeps Tanky McTankface's season alive for another week. But then we look on the other side of the ball. The Dream Team has pretty much been more or less what they have been for the last month or two now. Since they suffered that injury to Odell Beckham, they just haven't had the same firepower. But to their credit, they've been turning in consistent scores, I think, around this mark. Some you will win, some they've been very, very unfortunate over that stretch not to get it. There have been plenty of teams score less than this kind of points over that span. But unfortunately, the Dream Team is on, I believe, a 5 or 6 game losing streak right now. Let's take a look down the lineup. Drew Brees, 14 points. With the improved defense of the Saints and the improved running game, they just don't need him to be Drew Brees like they have in seasons past. So it's really hitting him in his attempts and his fantasy score. Adrian Peterson had a bad day on Thursday night against a good Saints defense, 2 points. Howard only got 5 points in a game. He was really expected to do more against Green Bay. Sean Jackson and Shepard combined for a nice day. They got 22 points between them. Spot start of Mercedes Lewis with Jordan Reed being out and Jared Cook being on a bye. He yielded only 3 points. He's really boom or bust, so unfortunately he busted here. Adam Thielen had a great day. It really kind of makes the 83 points look a bit better than it perhaps should have been. 23 points, absolutely great day. Matt Bryan got 11 as well. And then the Texans D only coming in with 3 points, which is quite disappointing. And there wasn't really a lot to speak of extra on the bench either. Certainly nothing that would have won the game. So, unfortunately for the Dream Team, now sitting at 3-6, the season is probably over. But you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. They've been putting in the effort still. They haven't given up. So, fair play to them. But Tank and Tankface, they moved to 4 and 5. Is that right? Yeah. So their season is alive for another week. Let's go to this game now. Tom's Tyrants against Southampton Narwhals. Perhaps a preview of the Tank Bowl for this year. Coming into this Tom's Tyrants, yeah, they've been really inconsistent. We know, posting some not very attractive scores over the last few weeks. Meanwhile, Southampton Narwhals have actually had a quietly nice season. The wins haven't been there, but they really have been posting really good scores consistently throughout the season, despite the injuries they suffered at the start of the year and the lack of waiver talent they've added to the team. It really, if you think about it, it's a case of what could have been. But alas, they did win today. They got 85 points on the consistent day. Tom's Tyrants got 83. This was a really close one, actually. And it came down to the Monday night game where both teams had a player left. Tom's Tyrants had Graham Gano and Southampton Knowles had Jarvis Landry. And I think there was about a point and a half, or less than a point, I think, between them entering that game. So it really came down to those players. And as it would happen, Southampton Knowles just came out. Funnily enough, they posted pretty much the same amount of points. So let's just take a look down. Let's start with Tom's Tyrants then. Jared Goff, he's been on fire lately. That was a good ad by Tom's Tyrants, a team that needed a quarterback. 33 points, great day. But again, that makes the 8th, put that into context. He got 83 points and Goff was 33 of them. So the rest of the team only combined for 50. Let's look down. Doug Martin. Tom's Tyrants would have been expecting more from him coming off the suspension, but the Bucs have not been a good team. That's not helped him. Only 5 points. Chris Thompson, 7 points. Decent day. He's had some great performances this year, but sadly none in this game. Paul Richardson and Cooper Kupp sadly combined for less than 10 points. It's not a great day for them. They've both had some very good games this season. Jason Witten, 6 points. It's okay. Antonio Brown was the disappointment here, 5 points. Again, his day could have been a lot better, but he had a really bad drop. And then the special teams actually, again, really, really helping out the team, combining for 19 points. It's a decent outing there, and again, not much on the bench here to add on to. Southampton Narwhals in the meanwhile, Tom Brady, 28 points, doing things that Tom Brady does. The team strategy has been Brady or bust for the last 2 years now. It's continuing to help them get wins. Jamal Charles and Donta Foreman combined for just over 5 points apiece. We know this is the worst running back core in the LOC, especially highlighted by missing their starting running back, Matt Forte. Marvin Jones, 2 points. That was quite a come down. He's had some really good games, and you would have thought against Cleveland that would have continued, but sadly it did not. Jarvis Landry, though, 10 points, as we said. Jimmy Graham had a great day, 2 touchdowns, only 27 yards, but gets 15 points nonetheless. T.Y. Hilton had another down game. He has been really, really boom or bust, and I mean really boom or really bust this season. Nowhere in between. 2.3 points in this one. And then the special teams combining for 21. So really, the makeup of the team was scarily similar. Good quarterback scores, good special team scores, not much in between. Southampton Knowles just comes out on top, but they come up to 3-6. Tom's Tyrants falls to 3-6. And the race for the Tank Bowl is on. There's actually quite a few players in that now. It's wide open as much as the actual playoffs are wide open. So there we go. Let's go on to our next game now then. Gridiron Gang against Ixan. So this was an interesting game heading into it as well. Both teams vying for position in the division, I believe. Entering this game, both teams were tied for the division lead, but they were second on points alone. It's a crucial game for this one. And another point here, the history of this game. We know Iknan absolutely cleans up against Gridiron Gang. I think they were 11-3 all time against Gridiron Gang entering this one. So they really do clean up usually, and this is a crucial one in the playoff race. I think if they were 6-3 entering the game, Gridiron Gang were 5-4. Ixan needed to keep up in the division. Gridiron Gang needs to keep up in their division. So it was a really interesting game for a number of reasons, and as we saw, Gridiron Gang managed to defy the odds and actually get a win over Ixan for once in a 98-80 point game. And if we look down the lineup, Matthew Stafford with 28 points, good day for him. Le'Veon Bell 11, consistent as always. Jarrett McKinnon was a bit of a disappointment. He only got 5 last week. Des Bryant as well. He only got 4. Devin Funchess though, Monday night comeback for Gridiron Gang. They were about 3.4 points down going into Monday night, and Devin Funchess delivers a 21-point game, which, you know, actually it's funny, I couldn't really sleep that day for whatever reason, so I stayed up, watched the first half. He had about 2 catches for 15 yards, and then I went to, you know, I turned it off at halftime, going to sleep in a half. And then I woke up to that, and I was like, okay then. But a bit solid performance by him. Jack Doyle, less than a point, quite disappointing. Orleans Darkwa, 11 points. Stephen Hauschka, 4, and the Lions defense with 14. And as we could see on the bench, a little bit more to add on, but not too much. On the other side of the ball, Ixan, Kirk Cousins had a great day, 30 points, really pulling them out for them. Darren McFadden finished with negative points. He only got 1 carry, I believe, in this game. Rod Smith and Alfred Morris really were the main backs in this game for Dallas. Lamar Miller, 7.4. Obviously, he's not been the same without Deshaun Watson. This is kind of what we were saying about Ixan. Between him and losing Ezekiel, this team was going to come down a notch. And that's exactly what was happening this week. Jordy Nelson, Ted Ginn combined for 2.3 between them. But then we get to the good part. Austin Hooper got 11. That was a great spot start by Ixan in the wake of Travis Kelce being on a bye. Robbie Anderson got 15. I believe that was his 4th touchdown in 4 games. Incredible. Chris Boswell got 6 points and the Steelers got 10 points. So not the best day for Ixan. But you know, they were missing a few key players. So they've got the potential. They're still very much alive in the playoff race, but it is wide open now, as we will see. They dropped to 6-4. Gridiron go to 6-4. So let's circle back and cover the games we missed. So I believe this one. So ADRZ v Bare Necessities. Now, ADRZ are leading the division again, tied on points, but they were leading it. Bare Necessities were a game behind entering this. They needed a win to keep up. ADRZ have been hot lately. They've had a great win streak of over, I believe it's over 4 now. Bare Necessities, however, ever since Rodgers has gone down, they've been on a complete slide. They've had a multi-game losing streak as well, and that really did continue here as we see 30 points to start over here. Just an awful day by Bare Necessities. Certainly a season worst, potentially a career worst for him, maybe an LOC worst, I'm not sure. So 30 points, let's take a look at it. I mean, you see right here, the 2 biggest reasons is I thought my dad threw in the towel in the game. As it turns out, he just accepted he wasn't going to win this week. Didn't want to get rid of these players, so I guess that's fair enough. But, you know, it's fantasy. You never know what's going to happen. It could have happened. The Bare Necessities would have been in this game. And if you don't play those 2 guys and it costs you, you know, you kick yourself. Didn't happen that way this time, so I guess it looks smart in hindsight. They keep them for next week. But it certainly makes their season score. And obviously any playoff tie, if they get to that point, which is looking unlikely now, they're obviously going to be really behind in points because of something like this. So let's go down though. Josh McCown, 15 points. He's had better days. Not great for him. Devontae Freeman got injured in the game. Only got 3 yards. So can't drill into that much. Actually, Aaron Jones got injured in the game as well. Jermaine Kearse just didn't have a great day. Robbie Anderson obviously got the points as we just saw. Alan Hearns, 7 points. It's okay, but you know, Hunter Henry only 7 yards. they've not been using him much. Obviously, there's still Gates there as well. I've been reading with Mike Williams coming back. They've been doing more. What is it? Is it 11 personnel? I think it's the way where you have one tight end, one running back, 3 receivers. Whereas they were doing a lot of 12 personnel where you have one running back and 2 tight ends. So that's really eaten into his production. John Brown, only 2.7 as well. So not a great day. There were some more points on the bench, as we can see down here. In fact, the bench actually did help score the starting lineup depressingly. But part of that is, Montgomery obviously came in when Jones got injured. James White, did pretty much what he usually does. Ben Roethlisberger had a decent day, but again, it wasn't much better than McCown. Delaney Walker did okay as well. But looking on the other side of the ball, a great day by Eddie Azzi, team that has put a lot of points up over the last few weeks, and it's just looking like a strong roster. As you can see, pretty much everyone except a couple of players went over 10 points in this one. Russell Wilson 23, Stewart 11. He's not been the best, but he had a good day. Monday night, Isaiah Crowell, he's been asleep all season long, but he comes alive for a good one here for 16 points. AJ Green continuing to do AJ Green things, 18 points. Nuke Hopkins, despite being without Deshaun Watson, got 11 points. Rob Gronkowski chipping in with 7.4. Juju Smith-Schuster, another good day, 16. Greg Zuerlein, who has really been the kicking MVP right now, who would have thought, 17 points, great day in the Vikings doing 4. As you can see on the bench as well, Robert Woods, 29 points. Had they played him, that would have been even better. So V. But Eddie Azzi now takes sole position of the Winchester division, as we'll see in a second, 7-3, 1 game ahead. Meanwhile, Ben Estes falls 2 games behind all of the other teams in the Paul's division, and it's really going to be hard for them to come back now with only 4 games to go. Palestine take on Forge Flies in our next game. Entering this one, Forge Flies, they were sitting at 8-1 entering this game, I believe. Yeah, so they've been obviously the best team so far, but the 2 weeks leading up to this, they've been looking a bit shaky. They'd only put points in the 80s. I think they'd got both 2 wins in both those games. But not looking their best. Certainly not what we've seen the rest of the season. Pakistan, meanwhile, they've been really consistent all year. They've been quite unlucky with some of the opponents they've faced, not getting some wins. But they did pick up a win here with another good day. And let's start on Pakistan's side of the ball. They're winning in spite of the quarterback. Whenever your quarterback doesn't get 20 points, it makes it hard to top 100, I think. Pat does a great job here. Prescott only got 13. Morrison Mixon combining for 15. Julio Jones only got 5. You see, where's all these points coming from? And then you see Michael Thomas, 12 points. Evan Ingram, 9 points. He's been a great player for them that they nabbed on free agency. Christian McCaffrey, who's finally coming through, 17 points. Not a lot of yardages, but 2 touchdowns. And Will Lutz, 13 points, and the Rams D, 19 points. So really the bottom half of the roster that's picking up for them, and not much to speak of on the bench, so they did a great job of team selection this week. Good win by them. On the other side of the ball, yeah, more of the same that has been for the last few weeks of Forge Flyers now. 83 points. It's not great, and they dropped to 8-2. They've pretty much sealed up the division, but every year it feels like we see the best team kind of fall into the playoffs and then just kind of flame out. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens again. They've got a good roster, so we'll have to see. But this game, Mariota, 20 points, that's a decent day. McCoy only got 6. He's not been great this season. He's had a few really good games, but between that, not been great. Todd Gurley, 14 points. Rashard Matthews got 5. Marquise Goodwin, heroic play, might I add, 16 points. Austin Safarian Jenkins, 7 points. Leonard Fournette, he didn't have a good day. I don't know if it's a rookie wall or whatever with him, but he's just not been the same between a suspension and an injury the last few weeks. So he got 5, Ryan Succop got 6, and then the Jags D got 6, and again, not a great deal to speak of on the bench. I don't think they would have had enough points to win the game, but is what it is. Pakistan leading the division on points, tied on record, 6-4. Forge Flies fall to 8-2, and you never know. ADLC 7-3. That number 1 seed might be a risk for Forge Flies right now, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And finally, our last game of last week, Cash for Gold take on the Detonators. Again, Cash for Gold thick in the division race, 5-4 entering this game in the Portsmouth division, tied for division lead. Meanwhile, the Detonators, they were sitting at 4-5, I think, entering this game. They really needed a win to keep up in the wildcard race. The division's pretty much over at this point for them, being so many games behind Forge Flies. But they certainly were alive in the division, but this team had suffered a lot of injuries of late and a lot of other factors. You know, Cash for Gold, we know the story with them. They've been quite consistent, but they've just struggled to put up the points this season. 90 points or more, they've only scored twice, and that remains the case because they only scored 82 last week, but they did pick up the win against a flagging Benedetto side. So let's start with Cash for Gold. Cash for Gold, Matt Ryan, 19 points, decent day. Derrick Henry, 5. Alvin Kamara, he's been an RB1. Both those Saints running backs, I think, are on course for a total of about 3,500 yards each. Combined, which is ridiculous. Golden Tate, he's been good this season, 16 points. Doug Baldwin chipping in, he's living up to his draft stock of 10 points. Cameron Brady gets 1, Cohen only gets 1. Comes up in the same, really, since the start of the season. And then Robbie Gould is 7 and Bears 4. So it started off so well, but the bottom half of the roster really let them down this week. They had Cam Newton on the bench who got 44 points on Monday night. That would have done it nicely. But as is life, and the rest didn't really add much there. So I had quite a few players on a bye, to be fair to them. On the other side of the ball, but then there's Ryan Fitzpatrick only got 12. We were watching that game on Red Zone when it came up infrequently, and it was not a good game. Carlos Hyde got 10, decent day for him, but Melvin Gordon only got 4. The Chargers just do not seem to be using him as much. He's not really been as effective, I don't think. Kevin Benjamin only got 4. Obviously, he's only been a Bill for a while, and that was on a day where Tyrod Taylor only passed for about 50 pass yards. Stephon Diggs 14, Fedora was 1, Sanu 3, Kai Forbath 10, and the Panthers do 3. On the bench, not really much to speak of. Fedora has got 20, it would have been a bit better. Matt Brady got 12, again it would have been a bit better, but they're already starting Carlos Hyde, so probably not going to start both. Again, a team with buys and injury problems, 62 points, not a great day. And at this point, Benedetto's being 4-6, it's probably going to be pretty tough for them to come back to the World Cup, but they are still alive, not dead and buried, absolutely not. If they can recapture some of their early season form, you never know. Meanwhile, Cash for Gold, they moved to 6-4 now, tied for that division lead, but 3rd on points. So right in the thick of it. So now let's take a quick look at the standings. Standings, there we go. So, Southampton division, 8-2, Forge Flies, they need 1 win or 1 Benedetto's loss this week, and they will have clinched the division crown for the year. So a lot at stake for them, but realistically, they've already made playoffs. Benedetto's at 4-6, 2 games behind in the wild card. Division's out of sight, but they could still get to the playoffs. There's still a route in. Dream Team 3-7. They're 3 games behind the wild card. Their season's probably over, so they're just playing to avoid the tank bowl right now. Southampton Knowles, they climbed to 3-7. They are tired of being the cellar dwellers of the league. They want to climb up a few spots, and they've got a good chance to. Portsmouth division then, we have 3 teams on 6-4. We can see Pakistan leading with a 65-point edge. Grenang Gang 2nd with a 55-point edge, and then Cash for Gold 3rd. Ben SSDs are around and out the bottom. They're in 4-6, and again 2 games behind the division, not dead and buried, but unlikely, especially with it being a divisional week this week. And they're playing Pakistan, so regardless of what happens, they'll still be 2 games behind. Winchester division, ADRZ, they're at 7-3, leading it. The only team to go over 1,000 points to this point in the season, so that congratulations for that. Ixan, they're at 6-4, 1 game behind, still alive and definitely in the thick of it for the wildcard race. Tanky with Tankface with that win last week, they keep their season alive. They're 4-6. Again, division 3 games behind. It's going to be tough for them to catch ADRZ, but you never know. The wildcard at 6-4, 2 games behind, still in reach. Tom's Time slow, 3-7 at the bottom. Realistically, they're out of it at this point. So that again, they're just a team looking to avoid the tank bowl. So let's set the scene for the playoff race then. We're entering week 11 now. We can talk about the playoff picture and how it's starting to form. So right now the teams in the playoff picture: Forge Flyers, Pakistan, ADRZ, and Ixan. Those are your 4 playoff teams as it stands today. Forge Flyers are the only one that is confirmed so far, pretty much. This week they could be solidified into the picture, but at 8-2, they're so far ahead of the rest of the division. With 4 games to go, feasibly they will be in the playoffs. Portsmouth division wide open. We could still see any one of these teams realistically win the division. There's a crucial divisional matchup this week, and I believe we've got one more before the season ends as well. So that could really affect what we see in this division over the coming weeks. In the Winchester division, ADRZ is 7-3. They've got a 1-game lead on Ixan, which, it's nice. They've got the points as well, so maybe you can think of that as a 2-game lead. But, it's certainly not over in terms of the division, and then Ixan 6-4. So we've got 4, 6, and 4 teams. One of those teams from Portsmouth will be the division winner, which leaves 3 teams vying for the wild card. The wild card picture right now is Gridiron Gang, Cash for Gold, and Ixan. And then if you chuck in the likes of the Detonators, Ben Assisties, and Tanky McTankfist on 4 and 6, with an outside chance of that wild card. 2 games behind it right now, though. So it's still all to play for. Next week, we may have a bit more of a clarified picture, but right now, as you can see, it's pretty wide open, all apart from this part here. So, pretty interesting stuff. Let's take a look at the breakdown now. Excuse me. So, taking a look at the breakdown again, this kind of just, confirms what we know about the power, where the power is in the league. Tom's Tyrants at the bottom. Cash for Gold, obviously, with another low-scoring week. They only went 3-8 last week, so they're still here. But Ben Assisties, like we said, since Rogers has gone out of this team, they've just not been the same. They've had losing records all but 1 week over the last 5. Dream Team next, then Southampton Knowles. They're climbing a bit. See what I mean about the consistency? They've had some good weeks in here. Ixan, surprisingly at 7th. They've been a very good team, but the last 2 weeks, 3-8, 2-9, they've cooled off. And again, why is that? Reasons I've already said. Deshaun Watson, Lamar Miller doing worse, and Ezekiel Elliott's suspension obviously takes a lot of points out of that team too. Gridiron Gang then, here at 6, they've been on a steady climb and they've been levelling off for the last few weeks. Tanky McTankface, as I said, they've been really good. They're at 5. ADRZ at 4, they've had some really good weeks too. Pakistan at 3, but then it is at 2, though, that early season has really boosted them up because the last 2 weeks they've been 0-11 and 1-10. And then at the top we see Forge Flyers, even with the subpar last 2 or 3 weeks, they've still posted a winning record or near enough a winning record each of those weeks. So still a good team. That is the standings and the coaching. So we'll take a look at any of the milestones now. So let's take a look. I've actually amended this, as you can probably see here. So I've added a seasons column so we can see how many seasons each coach has played in the league. And then a total games, regular season games coach, and postseason games coach, just to add some little flavour into the milestones. So, taking a look then, let's look at the career-long milestones first. Coach Barnes notched his 60th career loss. Well done, good job. What else we got in terms of career? Viv Nathwani, Coach Nathwani notched his 50th career loss. Good job, well done. Coach Allen notched his 20th career win. That's impressive, as well as regular season. Good job. Let's see what else we've got here. Coach Wells notched his 50th regular season win. Congratulations for that. What else we got? Coach Sherwood, I believe, notched their 60th regular season win last week. I believe. Hold on. Nothing else in terms of that. Let's take a look at the total games then. No round numbers for the total games, though we have Coach Wells and Coach Nathwani on the cusp of coaching their 100th game in the LOC. What a great achievement. Good for them. And for the milestones, that's pretty much all she wrote. So, we'll just take a quick look at the power rankings and everything now. Apologies if you can't really read this, it's quite small. But I'll read it out, so I won't give too much feedback on this. You can go check this out now. It's on the blog. So at the top we've got ADRZ, the first time Forge Flyers hasn't been there in a long, long time. Followed by Pakistan, Ixan at 3. Forge Flyers dropped to 4 from 1. They've just not been the same the last few weeks. Tanky McTankfist, they're at 5. They're kind of, oscillating up and down. Gridiron Gang hold at 6, but Adelaide fall a couple more to 7. Cash for Gold's climbing up slowly. They're at 8 from 9. Southampton Owls, they climb into the single digits for the first time in a while. They're at 9, where they have been forked. Dream Team, they're 3 and 7 at number 10. They were 8, so they've dropped down a couple. They've also been forked. Tom's Tyrants, they climb up 1 spot from 12th to 11th, also forked. Their necessities going from 11th to 12th. They've really been on a decline since they lost Aaron Rodgers, and they also got forked this week as well. I would show you the Ida Locker article, but it has not been posted as of yet, Tom. Hopefully we will see it today. If not, he will have broken his season promise of posting one every week, so keep an eye out for that. Now let's take a look at next week's games then. So we have quite a few interesting games. Those are last week's games to look at this week. So we've got Gridiron Gang against Cash for Gold, key divisional matchup. We obviously have to pick a marquee matchup, so let's see what else we've got. Dream Team against Southampton Owls. This could be a potentially interesting game to avoid the Tank Bowl. Both of these teams are 3 and 7 currently. Forge Flyers against Badendnaders. A win by Forge Flyers knocks the only divisional opponent that can catch them out of their running, and we're giving the win. But Badendnaders, if they got a win, keeps their season alive for another week and stops Forge Flyers from achieving a playoff berth for another week. Padastan against Bare Necessities. Again, key divisional matchup. Padastan trying to keep leading the division. Bare Necessities needs a win to really keep up and keep their season alive. Tom's Tyrants against ADRZ. Tom's Tyrants are playing to avoid the Tank Bowl right now. ADRZ winning the division. Tom's Tyrants could play spoilers here. Tanky McTankface against Ixan. Crucial game. So Tanky McTankface, if they win, they get 1 game closer to Ixan and 1 game closer potentially to the division lead. If Ixan win, kind of puts Tanky McTankface out of the playoff running, and they keep pace with ADRZ as well. So those were our games. For the marquee matchup, excuse me, I'm going to go with this game, because the reason being this could be the first week that we see a team achieve a playoff berth. If Forward Flyers win, they would go to 9 and 2. But then Badendnaders would drop to 4 and 7. No one else would be able to catch them in the division. I got that right, yeah. And they would achieve a playoff berth. But Badendnaders on the other side of the ball, they need to win, not only to stay in the wildcard race, but also for an outside chance of catching Forward Flyers. So the history of this matchup, let's take a look. Badendnaders are 7-4 against Forge Flyers all time, so they've got a bit of history on their side. Let's take a look down the lineups then. So Forge Flyers got 5 points from the Thursday night game from Ryan Suckup. There was actually quite a few players on the Thursday night game. Maybe they could have considered starting. Rashad Matthews got 17. Marcus Mariota got 17 as well, but that's stuck down. Derek Carr against New England, that's pretty good. McCoy against the Chargers, that's not great. Neither is Gurley against Minnesota. Macklin against Green Bay, but Macklin's not been great this season. Fitzgerald against Houston, that's pretty good. Vernon Davis against New Orleans, not as good as it sounds. New Orleans have been a good defensive team this year, and Drake against Tampa, that's pretty good. And Jack Stee against Cleveland, that's going to be an absolute bloodbath. On the other side of the ball, Badendnaders, they've got Ryan Fitzpatrick in the starting lineup, still bold, but that already speaks to the lack of quarterbacks on free agency right now. Melvin Gordon against Buffalo, they've been terrible against the run, so you'd think he should have a good day. Kareem Hunt against the Giants, they've not been a good defensive unit either. Jamison Crowder against New Orleans, if he's lining up against Lamar, that's not great, but I don't think he should, playing in the slot. Diggs against LA, Ertz against Dallas, that's a good matchup. Austin Eckler, they're playing both Chargers running backs here. I guess, as I said, the Bills have been awful against the run. It's at home as well, so they're coming from east to west. So we'll see if that pays off, and then Forbath and Ravensey. Just looking at the bench for them, yeah, they've not got a lot of options, this hand, to be fair. So, looking down the game, both teams have not been great of late. But based on the strength of the matchups, and Forge Flyers are kind of waning a bit right now. I think I'm going to go Bedennes. It's going to be a close game, I think, and it would not surprise me at all to see Forge Flyers win this. But ultimately, I think Bedennes, they've definitely got some talent. They've had a bad few weeks through injury and other reasons, so they're certainly due again, I think. They've got some really good matchups, as I said, so I just see Bedennes winning this one. So keeping the division race alive for another week. So let's take a look at the rest of our games now then. Gridiron Gang against Cash for Gold. As I said, both of these teams on 6 and 4 right now. Depending what happens in the game against Pakistan with bare necessities, if Pakistan lose, the winner of this game becomes the sole division leader for at least a week. So a lot to play for these two. So the history of this matchup is Gridiron Gang 2-0 against Cash for Gold all time, so Cash for Gold yet to notch their first win over Gridiron Gang. Looking down the lineup, Staff playing in Chicago, place he typically struggles. Chicago is pretty good, so could be a trap game there for him. Le'Veon Bell got 10 points Thursday night. Jared McKinnon playing against LA. Des Bryant against Philly. Brandon Cooks against Oakland. Tyler Croft against Denver. They've been really bad against tight ends. Orleans Darkwa against Kansas, then you've got Butker against the Giants, and the Lions D against Chicago on the other side of the ball. Matt Ryan against Seattle. On paper, in Seattle, that sounds horrible, but they've lost Richard Sherman. That Legion of Boom is not the same we've seen. They're also missing Cam Chancellor, so not as scary as it would seem on paper. J.J. playing the Cowboys, if he's going to become the lead back, he could really be good for them down the stretch. Alvin Kamara as well. He's basically been an RB1 this season. Golden Tate against Chicago. Doug Baldwin against Atlanta. Cameron Gray against Miami. Dontrell Inman makes his way from the web to the lineup against Detroit. Josh Lambert playing Cleveland. And Eagles D against Dallas. This is going to be a hot game, I think. I think it's really going to be a hot game. Both these teams, they score points, but they don't put them through the roof, so to speak. So it should be a nitty-gritty close one. The interesting thing I find here is a lot of Cash for Gold's players play in a Monday or Sunday night game. Sorry, they've got 4 players playing in the Monday or Sunday night game. So we're really not going to know the conclusion of this probably until that. Looking down on the paper though, I don't know what it is, I've just got a bad feeling about my team this week. I like some of the matchups for Cash for Gold, and I think they're kind of rounding into form at the right time. They've got some good players who are really starting to perform. So I'm actually going to go with Cash for Gold this week, and my heart sinks actually saying that going against my own team. I just think that's going to happen, and really, if I pick it wrong, I win either way. Because if I pick them and they win, I got it right. If I'm wrong, I win. So great days. But yeah, I think Cash for Gold will win this one probably. And they would take potentially the sole lead in the division. They'd move to 7-4. Gridiron Gang would fall to 7-5. Next one then, Dream Team against Southampton Knowles. As I said, this is a fight to avoid the Tank Bowl. Both of these teams are 3-7 right now. The winner could jump out of the Tank Bowl running, depending what happens with Thomas Tyrant's game. So let's take a look at the game, the history of this matchup. Dream Team against Southampton Knowles. Dream Team are 2-1 all time against Southampton Knowles, so they haven't faced each other a lot. It's a pretty close one. We've done that game, and there we go. So looking down the lineup, Drew Brees against Washington, but as we said, he's not passing it as much as he used to. Abdullah against Chicago, Howard against Detroit, Thielen against LA, Shepard, who are not playing, they need to get him out of the lineup, Jared Cook against New England, Deshaun Jackson against Miami, Bryant against Seattle, and Texans D against Arizona. Looking who would come in for Shepard, potentially. Could be Peterson moving into the flex, or Anderson moving into the flex, Duke Johnson moving into the flex, or maybe even Josh Doctson straight into the starting lineup. On the other side of the ball, Southampton Knowles, Tom Brady against Oakland. It's a good matchup. Jamal Charles and Devontae Foreman in the running back spots right now. We know they're not a great duo. Marvin Jones against Chicago. Jarvis Landry against Tampa Bay, Jimmy Graham against Atlanta, T.Y. Hilton still in the lineup on a bye, they need to get that changed. Blair Walsh against Atlanta, Seahawks T against Atlanta, looking at who they potentially bring in. It's probably going to be Zay Jones or Taylor Gabriel. They'll probably put Stephen Gostkowski back in the lineup as well if they do remember to change their lineup. But I'm going to go with the dream team here. Atlanta Knowles have had a few good weeks, a lot of good weeks this season, sorry. But I just think, especially without the changes and the bad running back duo, it's hard to count on them. I think Dream Team has some nice plays with some okay matchups this week. So I see them winning this one and getting their nose out of the tank while running for another week at least. Our next game then, we've already covered that one. Pakistan against Bare Necessities. Again, another crucial divisional matchup. Pakistan with a win should, barring a horrendous point outscoring by one of the other teams in the division, retain the lead in that division. Bare Necessities, currently 4-6. They need a win to go to 5-6 to stay alive, not only in the division race but also in the wildcard race. The history of this matchup, Bare Necessities are 1-2 against Pakistan all the time, so it's a pretty close one here. Looking down the lineup, so Pakistan, they've got Prescott against Philadelphia. I don't know if Tyron Smith's going to play this week. It could completely change the outlook of their game. Cowboys looked awful last week without him. Lynch against New England, that could be a good matchup, but the carries there for him. Mexican against Denver, that's not a great matchup at all, really. Julio Jones against Seattle, not as I said about Ryan, really not as bad as it sounds now. Thomas against Washington, it's okay. Evan Ingram against KC. Devontae Parker against Tampa Bay. Will Lutz against Washington. The Bengals against Denver. On the other side of the ball, Bare Necessities, they already had Ben Roethlisberger play Thursday night, and he got 37 points for them. Absolutely terrific start for him. They've got Dion Lewis against Oakland. Oakland have been a terrible run defense this year, so if New England want to pound it, he'll likely get a lot of yards. Jamal Williams against Baltimore. Michael Crabtree against New England. Again, the secondary for New England hasn't been great this season in terms of yardage. Not too bad in terms of touchdowns. Tyreek Hill against the Giants. Delaney Walker played Thursday night. He got 9 points for them. That's pretty good. James White also in the starting lineup. Starting double New England running backs here. Not really a fan of that. Although with New England they tend to mix them all in, so you'd think they'd both get some decent amount of points. And as we can see on the bench here, they've got a lot of injuries and buys, so they really don't have anyone else. J.K. Elliott kicker, and then the Chiefs D against New York Giants, so that could be a good one as well, potentially. Looking down the games, I think it could be a closer one than meets the eye. Pakistan have obviously had the form. Bare Necessities, on Thursday I probably would have said Pakistan hands down, but with a great start on Thursday night for Bare Necessities, they're already on 46. Is it too much of a stretch to say 7 players can get 54 points and get them to 100? I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. While Pakistan could certainly still score 100 points, nothing's in the bag. They've got a few trap matchups there, I think. Obviously missing quite a few players on a bye, as we can see here. I'm actually going to go with Bare Necessities, largely in part due to the advantage they have on Thursday night. I'm not really in love with a lot of what else is there on the roster, but they have still got some nice options. As we've said with this team, the poor quarterback play is really what sinks them. This team couldn't afford to have poor quarterback play. They've had a really good week at quarterback, so that really should propel them onto a victory. Pakistan certainly have the ammo to potentially win this, but I just can't see it being 46 points down already. Bare Necessities to take this game and make the Portsmouth division that much more interesting. Next game then, Thomas Terrence against ADRZ, as I said in the write-up. So Thomas Terrence has already changed, right after I prepared all the stuff for the podcast. So they've got Nick Rose in that kicker for the Giants. But Thomas Terrence, they're looking to play spoilers. If they win against ADRZ, they're right in the thick of it for the playoff race still. Meanwhile, as I just said, ADRZ, they get a win, they get another game in the division, potentially a 2-game lead, and they're nearly there in terms of playoffs. So the history of this matchup, let's take a look. Thomas Tyrants are 5-6 against ADRZ all time, so it's a pretty close one. all things considered. Let's look down. Goffs against Minnesota. That's not an easy matchup. Martin against Miami. Chris Thompson against New Orleans. Antonio Brown plays Thursday night and got them a whopping 32 points. Cooper Kupp against Minnesota. Jason Witten against Philly. Paul Richardson against Atlanta. Obviously, as I said, they've already swapped out their kicker, Nick Rose. And the Cardinals D against Houston. On the bench, I'm wondering who else they bring in. Probably not anyone at this point. On the other side of the way, ADRZ, Wilson against Atlanta, Corral against Jacksonville. That's not a great matchup. Fioris Allen against Green Bay with Woodhead figuring to return. That's not ideal either. AJ Green against Denver. That's not ideal. DeAndre Hopkins against Arizona. Not great, to be honest. Rob Gronkowski against Oakland. Juju Smith-Schuster plays Thursday. He only got 5 points. Greg Zuerlein against Minnesota and the Broncos D against Cincinnati. And the options on the bench, if they were to swap any of these guys out, really not a lot there. They've got Ivory, who might play, actually, that could be good. Ellington, Gillisley, Woods could come in, and Dwayne Washington. I'm going to go with Thomas Torrance in surprising fashion, because they've obviously not been a great team in the last few weeks. But 32 points on Thursday night, you know, they only need a few other decent performances on this team to have a really good week. On the other side of the ball, as I said, that running back duo is going to be tough. The receivers have tough matchups. I just don't see where the points are going to come from on this team to make up this deficit so early. So I'm going to pick Thomas Torrance to win it. Makes the Tank Bowl really interesting. Makes the playoffs really interesting. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on, Tanky Matangface against Ixan. This is our last game now. So entering this game, Tanky Matangface need a win to stay alive. They're at 4-6 right now. If they drop to 4-7, 3 games behind Ixan and the wildcard, pretty much dead. On the other side of the ball, Ixan, they need wins to keep up with ADRZ if they want hopes of winning the division. If not, to keep the edge in the wildcard race. The history of this matchup, Tanky Matangface against Ixan. Ixan are 4-9 against Tanky Matangface all time, so that's it's a bit of a trap matchup for them. Let's look down the lineup. Carson Wentz against Dallas, good matchup. Mark Ingram against Washington. Tevin Coleman against Seattle, it's a bit dodgy, but he will be the starting running back today. Alshon Jeffrey against Dallas. Mike Evans against Miami, Kyle Rudolph against LA, Marcus Lee against Cleveland, Matt Purdy against Chicago, and Saints D against Washington. On the other side of the ball, Kirk Cousins against New Orleans, who have been a pretty good defense. Lamar Miller against Arizona, Latavius Murray against LA, Jordy Nelson against Baltimore, Ted Ginn against Washington, Travis Kelce against New York Giants, Emmanuel Sanders against Cincinnati, Justin Tucker against Green Bay, and the Steelers D. Played on Thursday, got 17 points, so a pretty good day for them. Looking down the lineups, it's pretty close. To be honest, this running back core, it's really an enigma. We don't know what we're going to get for them. The receivers is really the same story, actually. Kirk Cousins against New Orleans. Kirk Cousins has been good of late, but that's a tough matchup, really. On the other side of the ball, David Harris really has some good matchups. Wentz against Dallas. Ingram against Washington. Jeffrey against Dallas, Mike Evans against Miami, he could clean up there. Even Marquise Lee against Cleveland is pretty good. So I think I'm actually, even though Ixan have got the 17-point edge already, I think I'm going to go with Tanky Matangface. And it's going to throw the entire LOC into chaos in the playoff race and the Tank Bowl race at the same time. So really lots of interesting things going on in the LOC this week. As I said, this is a divisional week. So there is a lot to play for. A lot of reshaping can be done. So I wish you the best luck in your games. If you're around today and you want to come watch the games, you're more than welcome to come watch them at mine. If not, as I keep saying every week, we'll try and get back to our regular scheduling on Thursday. Chris has informed me for Thursday should be good from next week. If not, game day pods are pretty fun, right? Even though it's a solo one. I feel like a bit like a radio DJ. Hey ho. But hey ho, yeah, we'll try and get back to that. We'll be with you to review all the goings on as always. In the meantime, have a good rest of your week and have a good week in real life and in fantasy. See you later.